357 here, coming to you with a little bit of bonus content now. This is not a video I'd actually planned on doing. I have a guy that works for me that was given a little 32, an H&R 632 model to be exact, and was told basically if you can get the thing working, you can have it. So he brings it to me to see what I can do with it, and the thing was just completely locked up. It was rusted solid basically on the inside. It didn't look too bad on the outside, but it was rusted pretty good on the inside. And it's one of the pull pin revolvers. You have to pull the pin out in order to get the cylinder out to load it or unload it. And it had 6 rounds, 6 cases that were still in the chambers that nobody could get the cases out. They'd been fired, but there were 6 cases in there. So the pin just would not come out because it was rusted solid. So he brought it to me, and I did some work on it. Wasn't planning on doing any videos with it or anything. And I finally got it apart. And in the process, I messed up the base pin just a little bit because I had to apply a lot of pressure to get that out. In fact, I had to take the hammer out and actually use a punch from the rear as well. And between that and pulling and all of that, I finally got the pin out and got it cleaned up, got all the rust out of it, got it oiled up, got it all put back together. Everything seemed fine, and the cylinder will not turn. So I've got to go back in and see what happened. I think I know. I think there is a little tab, little pin that the hand, or as H&R called it, the lever rides on, it goes into. And I think it probably came off of that during the assembly, and it's not going up high enough as a result. It's not being held up high enough to actually engage with the ratchet. So I think that's the problem. At least I hope that's the problem. If it's not, I'm probably going to have to take it to an actual gunsmith, but I'm going to delve back into it again and see if I can repair the problem. And a friend of mine said, hey, if you're going to get back into it again, why don't you just make a video? Might as well. I'm going to be doing it anyway. And this is about the 3rd or 4th time I've had to take it apart as I was messing with it. So maybe I actually halfway know what I'm doing now, and it won't be too bad to try to do it on video. So we're going to get here to the cleaning table here. I've got the H&R 632 over here, and we'll start taking this thing apart, see if we can get it all back together, and see if maybe it works this time. So let's get over here to the table. All right, guys, we've got the H&R 632 here in front of us. And you can see just a little revolver here that shoots 32 Smith & Wesson long here. You can see the little cases here that kind of look like little baby 38 specials, but they're 32s. And we've got to take this thing back apart again, so we'll start off with the grips, and I'll pull these grips back off. You see we've got the coil mainspring there. And this slides out very simply. You have to be careful, that thing will shoot across the room. I found that out the first time. There's no way to really hold on to it, so you just have to push it into the table right there and it'll just snap right there. And we'll take that out. Now we have to start driving pins out, and as you would expect, the pins drive out from the left-hand side of the revolver here. They drive that direction. That's the way they're designed. So we'll start driving these pins out here. This is the pin for the hammer. Drive that one out. There's that pin. We'll stick it right there so we don't lose it. Now we can pull the hammer out. All right. The next we will drive out this pin here, which is for the trigger guard and the single action sear right there. And what there, I'm gonna get my little one, and we'll drive this one out now. All right, stick that one to the side. And then we'll drive out the front pin for the trigger guard. All right. Yeah, shut that's the single action sear right there. Threw it across the table, but that's all right. Spring's still in it. That was what I was afraid of. There's a spring that goes in there as well, and it's still inside, so we're good there. All right. And there's a spring right here, and there's also a spring on top of the trigger there. This is the spring for the cylinder release, and I tell you what, we might as well just go ahead and take the cylinder out first too. While we're at it, you can see how easily that comes out now compared to what it was when I first started. I could not get it out. You see, I had these locks here, these whatever these things are called. My mind is not working right now. But anyway, I had these taped up so I wouldn't mess it up, but I had to apply so much pressure that it still did. But anyway, it comes out very easily now that it's been lubricated and the rust has been gotten off of it. So now we'll just drive out this pin for the trigger. Well, I said we would. There it goes. Doesn't want to come out though. All right. This is the cylinder stop right there. And this is the spring that pushes it back up into place. So we'll set that to the side right there. And here's your trigger. There's your trigger return spring. It goes in the top there. This is the hand, and I was wrong. It is still in place. So I am not sure. Spring is still where it's supposed to be. So I am not sure why the cylinder was not rotating. So this may not be anything that I can fix, because I have no idea now why it was not functioning properly. But I will try to put it back together again. I will make the attempt to get it back together and see if maybe I just had something a little bit out of place or something, and maybe when I get it back in this time it'll work. So let's try that. But this is your transfer bar. They started putting those on, I think, in the 70s, so I believe this is a 1970 something revolver. And this is what they call the lifter here, which is basically your double action mechanism that pushes your hammer up and gives you a double action trigger pull. The interesting thing about the single action sear here is that it goes into the back here of the trigger guard and sits down like this. And so when the hammer is pulled back and in the cock position, this holds it in place. And when you pull the trigger back, the trigger hitting this is actually what releases the hammer. It's not the trigger itself. When you pull the trigger back, you can pull it back almost to that point where the hammer is back, and then you can actually release this with a pin, with a punch or something to stick in there behind the trigger and push it with that instead of the trigger, and it will release the hammer. That's kind of interesting. I've never seen anything like that where the trigger doesn't actually release the single action in single action. It's not the trigger, it's this piece right here. It's the trigger hitting this when you pull it all the way to the back that releases the hammer in single action. I thought that was quite interesting. But let's see if we can get this back together, get our transfer bar back on here, and see if I have any hope of figuring out why this was not working. We got to feed all this back up through here again. This all goes behind into this section here where the hammer is. The spring goes into a little place here in the middle that it pushes against. You can see that down in there. I'll try to get a good picture of it or something to show you what I'm talking about. But that is how the trigger returns, is by that spring. And then this section of the trigger right here, along with this cylinder stop, pushes up into this section right here, through this hole in the bottom right here. And that is how that works. So let's see if I can get this back in now, because this was the difficult part of the whole thing, is just getting this back in. Everything else is pretty much gravy. Getting all this held into place and put back in, and then the pin pushed in to hold everything in, is the hard part. Help if I turn that the right way too. Had that on backwards, no wonder it wasn't working. The transfer bar is not. Just lost the spring, so we'll start all over again. There is the hard part. Once you lose the spring, you got to start from scratch again. Yeah, the spring slipped out of place. And that transfer bar is out of place. Try that again now, and that just fell out. I think you can see just how hard it is to hold all this stuff into place. If you turn it the right way. I think I got it. I think I got it. I think I got it. Push this the rest of the way through. that's in place. Hopefully it's right. Hopefully it's where it will work. Now to get this trigger guard back in, to get this spring up in here, then line this up, get it into there, and then get this back in here and line up that single action sear as well. This lined up. Just right. Without dropping the single action sear into the action, which I just did. Messing with guns frustrates me to no end. I don't know why I enjoy it so much. It just boggles the mind that I do this to myself all the time. Because I don't think I've ever messed with a gun that it was an absolute and complete disaster. And yet, I keep doing it again and again and again. I think that's what they call insanity, isn't it? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, I guess it's not insanity because I don't really expect a different result. I expect it to go exactly this way anyway. I just don't care, I guess. I know it's going to be a disaster before I start. I'm just a glutton for punishment, I guess. I really have not had this much trouble getting this one in before. This has usually went in fairly easily. But I wasn't filming before. Never fails when you try to video yourself doing something that makes a mess. You screw up everything. Don't ask me why. Just the way it is. It looks like it's lined up, but just didn't want to get started. All right. Now to get the single action sear lined up with the trigger guard in the back and get this one pushed through. Now that is in place. Now we have to get the hammer back in. Let's get this hammer down in here. Get it lined up. All right. Okay. And it's going through there, but it was before too, so I don't know if I fixed the problem or not. But everything appears to be working at the moment. I mean, from externally it looks like everything is fine. I've just got to get this hammer spring back in, which is a pain. Let me get it in. The right orientation. There we go. I'm just gonna go ahead and put the grips on. Because that hammer spring likes to come off without the grips on. And I don't want to reset it again. Okay, let's put our cylinder back in. Put our pin back in. It's locked up. And nothing. I do not know why, but for some reason now it is not functioning. And I don't know why. I'm not sure what is out of place. I've tried to figure it out, and I am at a loss. But anyway, that's me taking this apart and putting it back together. I may have put it back together wrong because it's still not functioning, but I'm not sure how else it would go together. So I guess I'm going to take it to a real gunsmith and have him take a look and see if he can figure out what I can't figure out on it, because I've looked at the part schematics and I've got all the parts here. I put them back the only places they can go that I can figure out. So I am not sure. I mean, you can see the lever, as they call it, or the hand, the pawl, is coming out. But it is not rotating that cylinder when it comes out. You can see on double action as well, it's coming out, but it's not rotating the cylinder. And I am at a loss as to why. Because it was actually, once I got a little bit of lubrication on it and was about halfway to the point of getting it freed up, it started working. And it would actually, you know, turn the cylinder and everything. I just couldn't get the base pin out to get the old cartridges out of it, the old cases out of it. And it was turning the base pin too, which it's not supposed to do. But it was actually working. So there's something has happened since I took it apart. So I'm sure I've got something in the wrong spot, but for the life of me, I don't know. If there's anybody out there that is familiar with these guns and knows what I have done wrong, please tell me, because it's not coming to me at the moment, and there's not a lot of information out there on these revolvers that I can find. So obviously it's not a very expensive gun, so you don't want to spend a lot of money on it, but I'd like to get this working for my friend that works for me. So if anybody has any idea, just let me know. Appreciate it, guys. God bless you. Y'all take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.